All right, so my buddy just brought over his bike, gave me a little bit more stuff to do, more projects, right? He brought me over the Fat Baggers EZ Install Handlebar Kit. If you guys haven't already seen the video I did on the Fat Baggers bars, those are very easy to install, wire up. Now these are the pre-wired options, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what these are all about. Now he does have a hydraulic clutch and also, you know, the brake side, so we have all the kits for that inside this box. So what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and get this bike off and go ahead and pull his on. All right, you guys already know what these handlebars are. Obviously, these are your stock handlebars. These are those wheelbarrow handlebars. Gonna get rid of these, add those Fat Bagger bars on here. So first thing I'll do is go ahead and cover up the tank. I'm also going to cover up the lower fairings. Anything that can get scratched, I'm gonna go ahead and cover that up. So you have this ignition switch cover. You just wanna push down on this gauge bezel. It's pretty much the easiest way to get it out besides using a picking tool to pick at it. So you can just push down on your gauge bezel like this and it'll pop right out. You just want to be careful with this tab right here. These break off really easily. So to remove the gauge bezel, you have a torque screw on each side and these are a T25. So from here, just lift up on the gauge bezel, just turn your ignition switch to the left to easily guide this out. You do have connectors on the back, so you'll have to disconnect those. You have a total of 3 connectors on this gauge bezel. You have one in the center, one on the left, and then one on the right. The release tab on the right side is on the top, and the release tab for the left side is on the bottom. For your center gauge cluster, you have this connector right here. You have tabs on each side. Just carefully pry those out. I just use a picking tool. So on the back of the gauge bezel, you'll have one connector right here. That's for your center gauge cluster. Then you have a connector on each side. That's for any auxiliary lights you might have for on and off switches. The release tab on this side is on the bottom and the release tab on this one is on the top. Now for me, I like to remove all the controls while it's still mounted to the bike. Makes it a whole lot easier. This clamp right here acts as a vise, so it's a lot easier to get these controls off. Now to remove the clutch side assembly, you have 2 torque screws right here. It's the same thing for your brake side assembly. You have 2 torque screws right here and they're T27. Now when I take these off, I like to cover them. That way they don't scratch anything up. Now for your brake side and your clutch side, you have these switches. You want to be careful when you take those assemblies off that you don't shear these off or break them off, especially when you go to reinstall them. So here you have your trigger finger switch cap. This is your trip button. Basically push it down to read more information. You want to pop this up and then you want to slide it out in this direction. So to get the switch housing off, you have these 2 screws right here and they're a T25. So just take them apart just like that. So from here, you can work your grip off, take that off. If it's glued on, depending if you want to keep it or not, most cases, once that's glued on, it's kind of hard to get off and you're pretty much ripping it up anyway. So it's always good to grab a set of grips that you can easily take on and off if you plan on changing your bars out more than once. Now for the left-hand control module, you just have one connector on this side. You can go ahead and take that out. I use a picking tool to kind of push that tab down and pull it out. And then you also have a latch right here. I use a picking tool to pry up on that latch. Now when you're pulling this off, you just want to be careful with this ribbon. You don't want to damage that. You have this channel that this cable is routed in. You just want to pull that out carefully because you are reusing these switches. It's held down by a zip tie. Go ahead and cut it. Same thing on the brake side. You have 2 screws right here and they're T25 Torx. Same thing on this side. You can just slide your grip right off. You do have teeth on the inside of this grip, so you'll know which grip goes on which side. Then you have your twist grip sensor assembly right here. Now on your right side, you have 2 connectors. You have your run stop switch, and then you have your right handlebar switch harness. You'll disconnect those. Same thing, you have tabs on the top side. Just use a picking tool to get those out. And then you also have a latch right here. You need to pry up on that latch. So here you have your harnesses. You have your left handlebar switch harness that's all by itself. Then you have your right handlebar switch harness. This is attached with your run stop switch. So you'll just push up on those tabs to get those out. And then you have your twist grip sensor way in the back. So you'll disconnect it right there. Now that I have the bars all disconnected, now usually I'll leave this mounted on so I can take the wiring out. But because the Fat Baggers Inc. bars are already pre-wired, I don't have to worry about taking these wires out. I can just take these bars off and either save those wires for later But to remove this clamp, you have 4 screws right here, and they're a 1/4 inch X bit. So there you have your clamp, and there you have it. Now, unboxing this, I already knew what to expect because I've already installed a few Fatbaggers Inc. EZ Install Handlebars. They have these all wrapped up, very nice, keeping everything secure. Now, as you can see, these come pre-wired, which is awesome. Fatbaggers Inc. has this all ready to go, plug and play. Now, they do have a piece of rope right here. That way, if you do have heated grips, you can attach those heated grips, pull those through, but they have this ready to go for you if you do have heated grips. Then for the right side, you have your right handlebar switch harness along with the run stop switch, and you also have your twist grip sensor, and also if you have heated grips, you attach them to this right here. Now, I've done these bars before, non-pre-wired. It wasn't very hard to get those wires through, but this is awesome that they have this all set up for you, ready to go, all plug and play. All you have to do is just put it together and mount it on your bike. Now, you are going to reuse your stock clamp. They send you some stickers along with some emblems that you can mount onto your bar. Then here you have your brake side and clutch side cable extensions. I'll show you exactly how to get these installed. Now, I highly suggest you pick up some new banjo bolts, one for your brake side and one for your clutch side, and also some copper crush washers. You always want to replace those when you pull those out. Now in the kit, they do have QR codes that you can scan. That way it takes you directly to their website or a YouTube video showing you exactly how to install this. All right, so you guys can see this already comes pre-wired, ready to go, all plug and play. But if you guys do need to wire up your bars, I'll put a few links in the description below on a few handlebar installs that I've done. But this thing is ready to go, all pre-wired, and yeah, which is great. Good job, Fatbaggers Inc. Now these bars do come in 2 pieces. They made this just so it's a little bit easier on shipping, but these are very strong and stable. You'll attach them in the middle, and then you have that clamp holding them down. So you have your knurling on each side. This helps support the bars when you clamp it down, kind of bites on there. It also helps you align them to make sure that they're even. So all I'll do is take this screw out. It's a 3/16 hex bit. So you'll just attach them right here. They already applied thread locker on here, so you don't have to worry about that. Now there is a torque value to this. I'll list it right here on the bottom of the screen. Now for this string right here, I'm not gonna remove it. I'm just gonna tuck it inside the bar. That way, if they ever wanna add heated grips, they can just take a picking tool, get the string out, and then route that wire through. Now I can get the bars installed onto the bike. Just make sure you're not crushing any of your wires. I'll reuse the stock clamp. Now I'm not gonna tighten this down all the way. I just wanna get them secured. What I'll do now is go ahead and take all this tape off. You are going to have some extra wiring because this is very long right here. So you can take some of that, tuck it inside of the bar, or just kind of pull it on the other end. Make sure you get all that tape off of there. Get all that residue off, clean these up. Like I said, I'll tuck this string into here. That way, if they ever want to add heated grips, it's right here. Now I'll reinstall the right side control module or your switches. Same way you took them off, you're gonna put them back on. Just make sure you route this wire through that channel, and then any excess wire, just tuck it into the bar. Just re-inspect it, make sure you're not pinching any wires. Put the switch housing back on. Kind of line that up. So you have your twist grip sensor right here. If you ever wanted to add heated grips, here's your connections right there. That's why they add that connection on the end along with the twist grip sensor connector. And then you have your channels right here. Just make sure everything's pushed in, secured. Now for your grip on the throttle side, you do have teeth on the inside. So just line that up with these teeth right here. Now, if you have a logo on here, just line it up with those teeth so your logo is straight up and down or wherever you want it. Now, when you get your switch housing on, you do have this channel right here that sits over the grip. That keeps it locked in place. Same thing on the front side, you have this channel. Just make sure it's seated right inside this channel right here. Now just get this loosely installed. Now I'll do the clutch side, and it's gonna be the exact same thing as your brake side. Same thing for the left side grip. You have this channel right here that's gonna sit inside the channel on the switch housing. Now for your left side grip, it's a little wider on this side. It's gonna sit right inside this cutout on your switches. Same thing on this side. I'll loosely install it until I get everything else on. Here you have your trigger finger switch cap. Same way you put it on, just kind of slide this from the side until it clicks in, and then just make sure that it works. So here you have your brake and clutch line extension kit. These are very easy to install. I already did videos on these. So this bleeder valve right here is a one-way valve. This allows you to bleed the brake lines without having to reset your ABS and everything else. So this is a great kit from Fatbaggers Inc. Allows you to extend that brake line, that clutch line if you have a hydraulic clutch. You have 2 copper crush washers on each one. I'll show you exactly how you're supposed to set these. And then you also want to pick up a new banjo bolt for your clutch side and your brake side, along with copper crush washers. You always want to replace those. So to get this all installed, I use a 1/4" wrench, a 5/8 wrench, a 7/16 wrench, a 3/16 hex bit, a 15 32nd socket, and a ratchet. Now I'll remove the clutch side banjo bolt. It's a 15 32nd socket. Now when you take this off, the brake fluid that's inside that reservoir is not gonna come out. You might have some inside the line, but that's about it. And like I said, you always wanna replace these, especially these copper crush washers. These copper crush washers act as a seal when you crush down on them, hence copper crush washer. So you always wanna pick up a new set. So 2 copper crush washers along with a banjo bolt, and that's for each side. And then I'll just use a plastic Ziploc bag and just cover up that clutch line just in case we have any leakage that comes out of there. So any brake fluid that comes out, yep, it is brake fluid inside your hydraulic reservoir. Any of that comes out, you wanna wipe that up. You don't wanna get that on any of your parts, to include your reservoir. That will eat up the paint. Now, anything that's inside the reservoir, it's not gonna come out, but you will have some inside of here, so just be careful with that. I kinda just drain that out just to get all of that out of there so I can get this mounted on. Now I'll reinstall the clutch side. Just be aware of this switch right here. You don't wanna shear this off. So you just wanna make sure you mount that correctly. If this somehow gets out of place, it won't let you start your bike in neutral. So just make sure when you do put this back on, that that lever is making contact with this right here. So I'll get this mounted on. You have this channel right here. That's where this locking pin is gonna sit. So you know you have it set correctly if you have this pin inside this channel. Now the channel that I pointed out, it's only gonna allow you to adjust it so far down and so far up. So just kind of get it where you want it. Now I'll get this new line connected. Now just make sure you have this angled correctly. You want it angled towards your bars. So I'll take the bolt, run that through with the copper crush washer. I'll put a brand new copper crush washer on the other side, and then I'll get this installed. Now there is a torque value to this. I won't torque it down just yet. I'm gonna get everything else set. Now it's on you how you wanna run your brake line and your clutch line. You just wanna make sure that you can turn your bike all the way left and all the way right without it getting snagged or getting caught up on the lines. So you have your banjo bolt on this side along with 2 copper crush washers. Go ahead and take those out. So I'll get these connected. It's on you how you want to get it installed. You can either come down like this, in this direction, all on you how you want to get this installed. I'll get the banjo bolt through with copper crush washer on top. Put the other copper crush washer on here. Start that. Now you can have these lined up like this. It all depends on how you're going to mount it inside of your fairing or inside your gauge bezel area with all your connections. So you can have this loosely installed for now, see where you want it, and then tighten it down. So to tighten everything down here, you have a 7/16 wrench right here, you have a 3/8 wrench right here, a 1/4" wrench, and then on top you have a 3/16 hex bit. I'll take my 3/8 wrench, put that on there for now so I can tighten this down. Take my 3/16 hex bit, go ahead and tighten this down. Take my 7/16 wrench, tighten this down. Basically what you're doing is using this 3/8 wrench to hold this in place while you tighten everything down. Now because I am on a lift, I'm gonna raise the front of the bike up. That way I can turn the handlebars all the way to the left and all the way to the right. So now that I have the clutch side level, I'll go ahead and remove the cap. Just be careful when you take that off because you will have some fluid. So if you do happen to spill any of that, make sure you clean it up. You have 2 screws on the top and they're usually a Phillips head screwdriver. So when you pull this cap off, just kind of keep it the way it is and then just put it onto a rag. All right guys, so very, very important. Always check your hydraulic fluid. Always check your brake fluid. If any of those gaskets are bad or if you have a bad seal, you will introduce air or moisture into your fluid and your clutch or your brake could possibly fail on you. So I'll just hook up a hose to the end of the bleeder valve. Just make sure it's secured. And I just got it going into a bottle right here. So I'm using a 3/8 wrench along with a 1/4" wrench to loosen this up and open up that bleeder valve. And like I said, this is a one-way valve. You're not going to introduce any air into your lines. Now for your brake and your clutch reservoir, it's .4 fluid. Now you just want to make sure that you use an unopened bottle. I'll go ahead and top this off first. Make sure we don't introduce any air into the lines. Now I'll just pull the clutch lever in about 10 to 12 times and let that bleed out. Just keep an eye on your reservoir You don't want that to go empty and introduce air into the lines. You will have some bubbles that come up because that's the air that's trapped inside of the new extension line. So I'll just keep pushing this down until there's no air in the hose. All right, so now I'll go ahead and close this up. Now that's pretty much it. All you would do now is just top off your fluid, put your cap back on, just inspect everything, make sure you don't have any fluid anywhere. And if you did, just go ahead and wipe that up. Now, when you reinstall your cap, you don't want to over tighten these because it will create a bad seal on here. That's probably why moisture got in there. It was tightened down too tight and didn't create a good seal. So the torque value for these is 12 to 15 inch-pounds. Now, because I am doing a whole fluid change on this, I'm gonna move on to the brake side, and it's gonna be the exact same thing as your clutch side. So here you can just lock your forks. So here I have the twist grip sensor. I'll go ahead and replug this in. Just push that into, you hear it click. Let's give it a slight tug, make sure it's all secured in there. So I'll plug in the left handlebar switch harness, tab side down, push that in until you hear it click. Now I'll plug in the right handlebar switch harness and then the run stop switch. Now just make sure all these gaskets are seated correctly. Push that in. All right, I'll tuck all this extra wiring in here. Fat Baggers gives you plenty of wiring, even if you wanted to go higher with 16-inch bars, plenty of wiring for that. Now it's on you how you want to route these extensions inside of here. You got plenty of room to tuck this inside of here. Like I said, you just want to make sure that you can turn your bike all the way left and all the way right without these cables snagging. Now the torque value on the banjo bolt for the front brake master cylinder and the clutch is 17 to 19 foot-pounds. Now I'll reinstall the gauge bezel. You have your two connectors right here. This tab is on the top, this tab is on the bottom. Then you have your center gauge cluster connector right here. Now that I have everything installed, I'm gonna go ahead and check the switches. So here, I'll just cut this on. I'll check the left side. So turn signals work. Brights work, horn works. Now I've already checked this, but if you have this issue where none of these buttons work, none of this works, first check your fuses. Don't worry about taking all this back off. Check your fuses. A lot of times it's the fuse. So I'll just take the side cover off. Now I didn't pull the main fuse. Sometimes this will happen, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you'll blow your fuse. If you look at your fuse box right here, most likely it's this 20 amp fuse right here. So you have a bunch of spares right here. Now anytime you take these spares out, you always want to refill them. You have these clips holding the fuse box in, so just push down on those clips using a flathead screwdriver. This will come right out. Now I already pulled the main fuse, so you can just look at your fuse box, seeing which one you need to pull out. If you don't know which one it is, just pull them all out and see which one it is. Now, before I torque anything down, I do like to have the rider sit on the bike. That way they can get a feel for the handlebars if we need to adjust them, as well as the controls. So I'll torque everything down once we get that set. Now for all the torque values, the left and right hand control module housing screws is 35 to 44 inch-pounds. The front brake master cylinder, to include the clutch hand lever clamp screws, is 60 to 80 inch-pounds. And the handlebar upper clamp screws is 16 to 20 foot-pounds. And when you tighten down those clamp screws, you want to tighten those down in an X pattern.